Mike's first love was named Sarah. They started dating back in high school and had a serious relationship. After high school, Mike went away to study at a college in the capital. He and Sarah were still a couple, but they rarely saw each other. Shortly before graduation, he met Jessica. Passion and drunken alcohol turned his head, and they ended up in the same bed. After a month of a relationship with Jessica, Mike had an epiphany and realized that he had made a mistake. He hoped that no one would find out about his transgression. But rumors spread very quickly. Through friends, Sarah learned that her lover was dating another woman. Mike was going to fix everything and to beg forgiveness at any price. But when Jessica said that she was pregnant, he realized that it was all over. His parents would not understand and would not forgive him if he abandoned his child. His father told him, "If the girl is pregnant, then get married." And Mike did not cross his parents. After learning of the imminent marriage of her beloved, Sarah could not stand such a betrayal and left town. Through a friend, she gave Mike a farewell note in which she wrote that she loved him more than life and dreamed of being his wife. But even though he had hurt her deeply, she forgave him and wished him happiness. Mike clenched the letter in his fist and cried with resentment. And then he decided to leave everything, to go after her and start afresh. Soon the couple had a son, and Mike came to terms with his new life and gave all his free time to his wife and little son. He began to treat Jessica much more warmly. Sarah slowly faded from his memory. The years went by. Mike became the head of his father's business and often went on business trips. Jessica never went to work, becoming a housewife. There was enough money in the house, and Mike was only happy to have his wife take care of the house and son. One day he came home from a business trip and did not find his wife at home. He called her and found out that she had gone with her son to visit his mother in the hospital, and at the same time to talk with the doctor about the treatment. Mike finished his dinner and sat down to do some work on the computer. He left his laptop in the office and decided to look at some calculations on his wife's laptop. After opening the laptop, Mike wanted to close his wife's open mail when he accidentally noticed many messages from the same addressee, all marked with an exclamation mark. Mike wondered who could be writing so many letters to his wife. He opened the first letter he saw and froze in shock. The stranger was extorting a large sum of money from Jessica, but Mike did not immediately understand why. He began to open the letters one by one, and gradually the terrible truth began to come to him. The stranger was convinced that Mike was not raising his own son. In one of the letters, Mike found a telephone number and immediately called. The man on the other end of the line was clearly discouraged by the call. At first, he did not want to tell anything, but when Mike offered him money for the truth, he agreed to tell everything. An hour later, they were already sitting in a cafe. The shattered man told Mike that he had been dating Jessica for 6 months before Mike and that they were serious about each other. Then she met Mike, who was from a rich and respectable family. Of course, she immediately dumped him for Mike. And recently he met a former friend of Vicky from that time, and she told him that Jessica that time got pregnant from him and was going to have an abortion. But then Mike came along and she tricked him into making him the father of her child. And now he just wanted some money for his silence. Mike left the cafe with his head spinning. He wanted to howl with pain and hopelessness, because for the sake of his son he had lost the woman he loved. Mike suddenly wanted to see Sarah at any cost, to hug and kiss her. He did not want to see his wife Jessica and did not even call her. He had nothing more to do with her, but he loved his son anyway. The man was walking down the street and felt that now his future destiny was being decided. 5 years had passed, and now he had to find Sarah by all means. The first thing Mike did was to go to Sarah's aunt and ask for her address. The woman was not happy for Mike and did not want to give her address, but after much persuasion, she gave her niece's address. Sarah lived in a small, well-kept house on the outskirts of the city. Barely breathing, Mike went into the yard and saw a girl of 5 playing dolls on the lawn. Just then he saw Sarah come out. The woman stopped in shock, and the tray of food fell out of her hands. Mike rushed to her, begging her forgiveness as he went. The man spoke non-stop about how he had learned the whole truth, how all his life he had loved only Sarah, and only his duty to his unborn son had made him leave her. And now that he had found her again, he would never leave her again. By this time, Sarah had come to her senses and pulled herself together. She told Mike bluntly that he didn't think he could just walk in on them after 5 years and everything would be the same and forgotten overnight. Unable to continue this conversation, she turned to the window and cried. Mike came up to her and hugged her and told he just couldn't live without her anymore. Sarah turned around and looked at him silently. Suddenly, a girl who was watching the altercation of the adults ran up and hugged her mother and Mike, and as if the wall fell between the two people who had lost each other. Sarah smiled and told her daughter that Daddy was finally able to visit her. They have not parted since then. Mike divorced Jessica quietly without any scandals, bought her and her son a separate apartment. He did not stop communicating with his son. The boy often visited him because he was like family to him. And a year later, Sarah gave birth to another daughter. So now he had a large family, and Mike was finally happy. He was lucky that everything worked out so well and that Sarah waited for him and was faithful to him. Mike had learned his lesson for life and would never make the same mistakes again.